when you're learning how to draw, or when you're learning how to draw, first of all, one of the things that everyone works on is kind of copying in detail, right? And that leads to getting stuck in all the minutia versus really understanding the big picture of things. And when you're dealing with trying to understand gesture, what you're trying to understand is the big picture, or as the Germans call it, and I happen to be half German, so I love bringing up this word, but Gestalt, right? The Gestalt of all of this, which means understanding the wholeness of something. And I found over my years of teaching that it seems to be human nature, most common human nature, is to get mired and sort of tunnel visioned in the little stuff, right? So all of us, meaning Matunjay Swenley and I, we've all over time learned to try to stop the addiction of the detail, put that towards the back end, right? That's the icing on the cake, and bring your mind more towards, and your thinking more towards the big picture thinking and the simplicity of things before you get into all the small stuff. Now, that aside, this also is really a powerful thing we're going to show you when it comes to work, right? Having art directed for many years, especially in games, you want to be able to iterate, right? You want to be able to come up with ideas very quickly. So if you know how to get away from the details and stick with big picture thinking, that allows you to go after trying to find concepts with not that much effort, right? Because it's about ideas, it's about your mind, not about like how beautiful is this drawing. Ironically, I do think that quick gesture drawings are beautiful, but it's not like a finished polished painting or anything like that. And you can say this goes for speed painting as well, right? Like speed composition, speed painting, how do you get ideas fast? What we're doing today is like speed drawing, right? We're going to show you how to do it with these gestures, right? All right, on your marks.
Yes,
Get set, go. What I'm doing now is I'm going to start adding anatomy. Am I done?
Now you're halfway. 40 seconds.
Wow, okay, so look, I got shapes, I got the rhythm, everything. I'm going to start putting anatomy in here and more form, all right? Let's get his neck in here. Here's his hair. Maybe I'll get something of his face in here.
And you're done.
Okay. So what did I do, right? What I'm really doing, and this is kind of my big secret to share with you guys today, is I draw actually from force shape, okay? So if you look at this, let's see, I'll knock the opacity down here. What I did here is I went from shape to shape to shape. I started with this big body shape. I think I went into his arm. I got the shape of his arm, and then I'm looking at silhouettes of what I'm drawing, and then I just plug in a little bit of form or anatomy. Like one area I think I should have added in here is I got the shape of the leg. Just having this curve here in the shorts, that would have helped, right? That would have told us the leg's going away. So it doesn't take much on the form side to give you perspective, but if I can get fluid force shape and draw that with my fluidity and confidence, that I can get really far really fast, right? So you can see that was 1 minute. I had already the whole pose down. All I had to do is I had time to get like his deltoid in there. I even got his face and his ear there, right? He even put his latissimus dorsi in here. I started putting some anatomy in because I just drew fluid shapes connecting into one another, right? Okay. So I tried to grab one to James's question before. Here's one that doesn't have that much drama, right? And I think this one I'll draw a couple of times. I'm going to try and start with what he's giving me, and then I'm going to try to push the drama, okay? So ready? Hold on a second. Ready, set, go. I'm shrinking him down, and I don't like doing that. Like there. You know, if you start looking at how much shape am I using, you'll realize it's all like shape-based, especially in gesture, right? I'm being really fast about that. Not fast enough though, because here I'm wasting time with some detail. Let's get his head in there. I want the upwardness of the jaw. I'm upping the size just to get it in there. And then his arm is going like this. Get his chest.
All right, you're done.
Okay, so there's my first take, right? This one I just barely fit in there. So here's one with not that much, right, going on. I think his legs got a little short because I tried to squeeze him in this page. So always watch out for that. That's a bad trap. You'll notice in the shorts, one real quick trick for form, believe it or not, is this S that I threw in here, right? I did it very abstractly. I was like, whoop, like this. What that gave me was pushing up on the hip and its roundness, but pushing down in the stomach and its roundness, right? So pretty powerful. Sometimes something is moving only in one direction around this, and that curved line tells me it's this kind of tube or it's this kind of tube. But there's lots of moments in the body where I use this S because it's two forms meeting each other. And not only is it S is created for rhythm, but S can be used for two forms going in opposite directions. And that S is fast way of doing that, right? And that turning edge was right there. So I went up in the hip and down in the stomach, you see? So now what I'm going to do in the next minute, I'm going to try and take this and crank it up, right? It almost feels like it could be like a superhero pose. So I'm going to try to do that, okay? And this is another thing, right? We talked in the past about inspiration and all that. I'm going to try to say, here's my inspiration for this photo. It's got some feeling I want in it, but I want to plus it, right? I want to push it. So ready, set,
all right, let's go.
Go. So I'm gonna instead push the chest this way instead of the S. I'm gonna make it a C. I'm gonna push out in the chest, push this up. I'm gonna push his chin up higher too. Make him even cockier. All right. Here's my S again. Maybe I give him thicker, stronger legs and maybe a wider stance. I'm gonna put 1 foot there and 1 foot there. Some roundness, right? Some roundness. This is just notes for me. Leg going away, leg coming towards me. I could put it in the shorts. It is going this way, this going this way. But notice the power of these shapes. Right, here's his lats. I can now start getting into anatomy.
Yeah, you're done.
Okay, so you can see I pushed this, right? I pushed the chest up. I brought the chin up. I got the arms up. I spread the legs further apart, right? You can see how in 1 minute, this is 2 minutes of work, right? Remember, folks, this is 2 minutes. So James was asking also about how's this work used at a job, right? So imagine I'm a concept artist and I have to come up with a pose for a character. I might see this on the internet somewhere and then go, okay, that's kind of cool, but I want to go further. I can take some of the ideas, even take the face and stuff, but I can take this and keep plussing it, plussing it, plussing it, right? So that's one way that you could work, is to take something and keep pushing it. Again, I'm driving off of shape, and shape with force connecting from one thing to another with a little bit of form is enough for me to do a 1 minute drawing that even has a little bit of anatomy in it, right? So where's the form, right? It's in the deltoid, it's in the shorts, it's in the shorts. It happens in overlap, right? So if I have the leg and it's coming out like this, and I say, here's the calf, behind it, any kind of overlapping moments give me form as well, right? So I have to be aware of what's in front and what's in back, and that ends up giving me space also, okay? And it gives it to me quickly, right? Really, really fast. Okay, here's another one. I'm gonna try to do this one cleaner and still go for shape to really try to bring it out, but a little bit more stylized almost. Let's see if I can get this to feel a little more cartoonish, okay?
Ready,
okay,
set, go.
Yep. hate when I waste time to move it because I don't want to do that, but I'm getting all over the place with this guy. I can feel myself running out of time, so I'm trying to crank along here.
You're the fastest, don't worry.
Yeah, I can feel when I'm like, I'm taking too long on this decision.
All right,
so here's one.
there you go.
Yeah, so here's one that was, a little more designed. I tried to show you a little bit more of my straight and curve ideas. It's a little cleaner and simpler. I even pushed a little bit more aesthetic in here. I could draw layer upon layer upon layer on top of this to cartoon it almost, right? To get clarity and shape. What I missed in here, I think the one thing I'm missing is I would have probably put this in here a little bit more with 2 or 3 more seconds. You see, I want that S to happen. I got it in the body and in the shape of the body, but man, that's a great little detail, right? So that's me kind of abstracting to simplify as much as I can, right? So there's a 1 minute, right? All right, let's see what else we have. Let's close up our session. So in closing, I want to share with you guys, well, Swenley, Mrityunjay, and I want to share with you guys these last notes. How to draw a quick gesture, right? What did we do today? The most important thing is to be clear and confident, right? And the way you gain that clarity is through systems, right? And at drawingforce.com, we're teaching you systems in a sense, right? And the system is rhythm, right? So we teach you the force line, which builds up your confidence and clarity of knowing what kind of stroke you're using. That's already getting a huge question mark off the table. Is well, how am I going to attack the page, right? That later leads to form, it leads to shape, right? So once you understand that, you start getting a grasp of what the systems are, rhythm being probably the most important one. And that gets all 3 of us, as you saw today, through the body very, very quickly, right? Really fast. Loosen up, right? The common mistake that I see in students, and I've been there, I'm not alone on this. I'm not any different than you guys, is don't get stuck on the details. You have 1 minute, right? I love when I teach classes in the colleges and I start them off with 30-second and 1 minute poses, right? And everyone frantically goes chaotic, right? It's I don't know how to do that. 1 minute, so fast. Well, because everyone wants to just focus down on these tiny, tiny little details, right? So we don't want to do that. Draw with confidence. We talked about that, right? You got to get the strokes down. You just have to keep pushing forward in that 1 minute. And over time, you'll get used to what 1 minute feels like. And it's just pounding through the fear, right? The concern to just be able to get confident in that space. Draw small, think big, and draw big, feel the power. What does this mean? In the books, I don't teach this, I have to say, admittedly, too much on the website because I usually focus on the draw big, feel the power. Meaning, if you draw bigger, you really do get a sense of what the force line is like and that it's powerful. You feel its energy, you feel the force of drawing and what it physically means. But on the flip side, Mrityunjay actually brought this up, and it is in the books. I have notes there on well, when you draw small, you get to think big, right? Because if you see something small like a thumbnail, you can see the whole thing very quickly. So the trick is, I think, using both, right? I recommend draw big because you want to feel what force is like, but drawing small as a thumbnail gets you to see it. If I were to separate it in another way, I would say draw small, think big. Draw small, think big is mental. Draw big is physical, right? You want to feel what force actually does. When you draw small, it's more of a mental exercise of trying to understand how things work, right? And last but not least, as hopefully we all proved to you today, just a hint of form is actually enough. A line, literally one line, one curved line, immediately creates direction in space, right? It's amazing how powerful one mark on a piece of paper is and all the meaning that can get attached to it.